Hey guys, this is a little video about something that I've made tons of. Horses. You know, you cannot, in my opinion, you cannot buy a set of horses that you should actually spend money on, because none of them are any good. Recently, recently, we're talking 15 years. I bought these things about 15 years ago, I guess. They're metal. And they're fold up, the legs extend. I thought, oh, this is great. I can fold these up, throw them in the back of the truck, take up less space. It's true, they do fold up. They do take up less space. But because they fold up, they also collapse. And a lot of times I have had stuff in there, and just as I'm loading it with the last little bit of something, they would collapse, fall over. They're not very sturdy, no matter how you look at it. But it is what it is. So that's the metal one. So then you got the plastic ones, which, like I say, you know, the idea behind them, there's some hooks on this thing, there's some catches. None of them are made for any kind of long-term use. They fold up. Half the time, the folding up part, that hinge that's on there, it's a clever hinge, but it doesn't last. And, you know, I have that much molding on there. I don't know how much molding's on there, about 50, maybe 40 pieces. And they're already a little rickety. I mean, they seem okay. They're not bad, but I wouldn't trust standing on these suckers with scaffolding. So that's the plastic ones. They're cheap enough. I think I paid like, I don't know, I want to say 20 bucks for the pair. So, you know, under those circumstances, I grabbed them, threw them on the truck. Again, they fold up, they don't take up much space. But believe me, when you're doing some heavy work, I mean, I would unload a truckload of roof rafters and put them all on horses just so that I could cut them all while I was standing up. And these would never do for that. So then you got the old standby, which is a wood set of horses. Now, these horses that I have here that I've been using to put lumber on, you can see how this guy made these. Now, this was made by a friend of mine. He cut these, put them together. He did a nice job on them. They're not bad. They're pretty sturdy. So he passed away last, I think it was 2 years ago, and they didn't want them, so I figured I'd take them. Helps me to remember them every now and then. But here's the thing. Sometimes you can spend too much time on something. Like you can see that he beveled the edge of the board and stuff like that. I'm going to show you how I make horses, and here was the thing. I never wanted to have horses on the back of the truck because they take up too much space. So whenever you would get in the pickup truck and you'd have it loaded with tools, you go to put a set of horses on there, and the collapsible ones were better, but they didn't stay together. Even these wood ones, what I ended up doing was every time I built a house, I built two things. A bench or two benches and two horses. That's what I would do every time I got to the job. As soon as I had wood that was left over, or as soon as I had, sometimes if I got to the job and I didn't have a set of horses with me, I would make them right away out of just 2x4s. So most of the horses I've made are made out of 2x4s and a piece of plywood. What I like to do is cut a piece of plywood sort of like in the shape of an A and nail that on the end of the three pieces of wood that join together. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Now, you know, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'll tell you what. I was overlooking at my lumber pile over there, and I'm thinking I don't want to use that stuff for horses. So since this red oak, I guess I'm not attached to it yet because I just cut it last week. I'm going to cut these into 2x3s because red oak should actually be stronger than pine is. So I'm going to cut these into 2x3s and see if I can't make some horses real quick. So I'll show you how I go about doing that then. Just let me tell you, I'm not in competition with anybody to make horses. I'm not, you know, a lot of guys make horses, and I've seen a lot of guys make horses as if they were making Louis XV furniture. I'm not interested in that. What I need is a couple sets of horses so I can do the womanizing for the deck lumber, and I also need horses so I can set the molding on up at the house. You've seen I had one set holding the molding, but I need more horses to hold the molding when I polyurethane it. So that's why I'm making horses. The thing that I don't have is plywood, and I wish I did. And I'm not talking about OSB. I'm talking about real live plywood, especially the exterior grade, because it wouldn't come apart. So let's see here. I was gonna throw this away. This is a box from one of the tools I bought. So I'm going to just use this. This is plywood. I don't think it's exterior grade, but I'm not going to keep it that long. Looks like some kind of cart plywood. But I'm going to use this to cut the A's out of to nail up on the edges. So I'll show you how I do that then. So the first thing you want to do is cut some legs. So I'm going to cut these legs 32 inches. And that'll give me a 30-inch wide horse left over from that board. So no rhyme or reason, I'm just going to stick with that number because I got the board. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with any structural thing or anything. All I'm making is straight cut. Leg. Let me go with 30 inches here. Just so I'm uniform, that's all I'm after. So this is the top. And these are legs. So that's one set of horse parts to start off with. So I'm going to cut another set of horse parts. Like I say, normally I'd use 2x4s for this, but since this is red oak, it should be stronger than pine. But not only that, this is very wet. You can see how dark it is, so it should be able to be. I should be able to nail it. Looks like this ends. Need to be squared up a little bit here. So we got leg. What I'm going to do with this box then, we're going to just make sure this thing is square. Put a square line on that, or a straight line. So we need 12 inches high. I'm going right off the square here. So 12. I'll just go 12 by 12. Let me see if that... Actually, that's not bad. It makes at least another piece here. That's pretty good. Pretty close. Okay, so we're going to just go 12 by 12. So we want to find the center of that, which is 6 inches. And we're going to go 3.5 inches, which is 1.5 plus a quarter. Okay, so 1 3/4, 1.5 plus a quarter, 1 3/4 on this side of the line, 1 3/4 on that side of the line, and then all you do, don't have to do no figuring or anything. Just this is a little bit of geometry, but it's geometry in easy form. It's knowing the shapes. So this A here then that I've made. This A is what I'm after. I need a couple of those. Okay, now I don't need to cut out this whole square, because if I leave this the way it is, I could actually flop this over to get another one cut. So let me do that. Got that. And we're going to just mark off another one on this side. There's some staples sticking out of this wood, which is sort of sticking me here, but so that'll be the second one for the other horse. So let me cut that out. A's. I'm going to try and get rid of some of these staples here. I'll just drive them into the wood. Once they're nailed down, they're not going to bother me. Okay, so then top, this is a leg, this is a leg. So again, all you want to do is make sure the top of them are together at this top point. And then one of these, you want to come up there high enough to catch that board there. So these are roughly 2 inches, so I can come up here 2 inches. Let me, I'm going to come up 1 3/4 inches because there's no reason to have this thing sticking out above the top. So I'm just marking 1 3/4 inches down on each edge. In other words, I'm measuring from here down 1 3/4 inches, and I'm going to put that. At the top of the 2x4. Now I'm not worrying about this other one for right now. Look, ain't this a shame? I'm so used to using air guns that I have these nails in my bag. I just take them apart. I'm going to use these while I have them. See, that nail is easy because it's wet. What you're doing is keeping this even along the side here. Doing the same thing on this side. I'm putting the top of the 2x4 with my pencil mark at 1 3/4 inches. And just driving some nails in. It'd be a whole lot easier if I just went and got some nails. But I've already walked over to the garage 6 times. Wow, that oak is hard nailing. Yow! Okay, so now that is the legs for one side, okay, of a horse. So you let it sit on the side and grab 2 other legs. I'm going to put this on there, 1 3/4 inches down. There are a lot of ways to make horses. I don't need any lessons on making them. Taking the time to cut angle cuts and all kind of other stuff might be fine for somebody else, but since horses don't last, I'm not playing that game. Now, as long as you've cut this angle here pretty good, you can figure that the horses are going to stand fairly nice. They don't have to be perfect because 99% of the time I'm working on crooked ground. I'm not even on anything flat. Although if I use them as a little bit of a scaffolding in the house, then it would be a different story. Then I would want to make them a little more precise. But I don't really need that. Again, these are throwaways. Start at the end here. Oh. Be nice if I had a bigger flat table. I'm actually used to working with nothing. Okay, so that's the other set of horses there. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is when I originally started this, if you remember, I had these 2 boards together. But when I measured the top there, I just added to this. And as I brought these down, they brought the horse legs apart. That is not a big deal because this A is actually holding this. Now if I would have made this top fit right here and not extended it above, this would have fit there. So I'm a little rusty at making them. But either way, these are going to work fine. The only thing is I want a wider board though. Instead of these 2x3s, boy, 5 inches, a 2x6 would be nice. Let's see what I got here. Now I'm just working with what I have off the pile. You know what, here's a 1 inch, well here's something here. Now, that's too nice to cut. Here's a 1x6. I could use a 1x6, it's not going to hurt anything. I don't need all 2x4s. When you're working with what you have, that's exactly right. You work with what you have. Mark that. We'll cut this and then we'll measure 30 inches. Maybe I'll go 36. I'll go 36 inches. Just for the sake of not wasting any more boards than I have to. Like I say, it doesn't matter. You can make this thing 2 inches or you could make it 6 feet wide if you want to, as long as you brace it good, which I'll show you how to do that. So let me just show you what I got here then. So we'll put that there. Look how the Woodmizer comes in handy as a third man. Use a little bit of a longer nail on this. I used like a 6-penny on the from the plywood into the yoke. I'm going to use a 12-penny to nail these other pieces. And again, I'm not in competition with anybody to make horses. I'm just making something that's quick, cheap, and I got other things to do type of horses. So you see how this A here locks this whole thing together. That's why I like doing it like this. It's quick, it's easy, and it's strong at the same time. Now the thing is this concrete that I'm on is flat, so that's helping me to keep the horses nice. So I'm using the concrete in order to keep the horses' legs the same length. Not that I nail it crooked. Not that I nail it crooked and it ends up not wanting to stay straight for me. Even though this is a little bit wet, the oak is still splitting a little. They're heavier than a regular set of horses are too, because of the oak. Okay, so basically that's your horse. Now we need something here to make a brace on that, and that's where I'm going to use some more 2x. Okay, so I set the horses, flipped them over so they're laying on the flat piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the angle for the brace. Now here's something that's very quick and easy. In order to cut a 45, all you need to do is take a framing square, and whatever number you have on one side you want to have on the other. So if you have 5 inches over here, you need 5 inches over there, and that gives you a 45. Okay, there's a 45 already cut on this. If I put 5 here, I have 5 over here. So that gives you a 45, okay? So that's very simple to mark. Now as far as the length of it goes, this is what I'm actually going to use. The length is going to depend on the thickness of the board and stuff. So in other words, you want to make sure you're going to clear everything here. As far as clearing stuff, I'm fine right there, so that's not an issue. If you're needing to know though, the length of this at the back side is 14 inches. So I'm going to put this on here. And what you want to do is make sure that your angle's flat on the bottom, and then you want to be flat on the top here. And what that'll do is that'll keep the horses straight up, or the legs straight for you. So that's nailed on one side. I should have cut this one here. 14 inches. And this will be the brace for the other side. Now I have to nail the bottom of that as well. So I'm going to just go, it doesn't matter what number you go with. I'm going with 5 and 5. And at the top here I'm reading 5 and 5. And I'm bringing it over to my line. So that gives me the 45 that I'm looking for. Okay? It's that simple. I'll nail that on there. Now you got to watch how big of a nail you use down here, because you'll end up coming through that top board. Not that it's a big issue, but if I put one nail in there just to hold that, I can nail through from the top. And again, you want to make sure that your angle on the bottom is sitting real nice down there. And it doesn't matter which way you nail it. I'm doing it different ways here so that somebody realizes that. If your angle's good on the bottom and your angle's good on the top here, you know the legs are fairly straight. And even that doesn't matter for this. It's not like I'm using these for furniture. I just need something to set painted boards on. And that's it. So these horses will work fine on uneven terrain or whatever. Doesn't matter. They're pulling now a little bit because the boards are not perfect. But it's like I say, it's fine to be able to set something on. So this is just something that I would make just to throw boards on that I'm going to cut. Okay, so this is the second horse. That's the first one over there. And luckily I found a piece of plywood that I can use for the braces on the sides. Now, these braces, if you're going to make a set of horses out of some nice stuff for like an ornamental type thing or whatever, maybe you're going to keep them somewhere handy, you don't really want to use a board in here because it'll probably split. But plywood is actually better because the plywood has multi-grains to it. So this way here it'll stay nice and square, or whatever shape you have there. It'll keep itself together better. Otherwise a regular board would probably split. So that's where you want to use the plywood. Alright, so now I just want to go over that part about cutting that angle real quick. Bullseye, stay here, boy. The length of the boards were 14 inches. I got 30 inches here. This was a top I was going to use. I decided not to use it. What do you guys see in there? Yeah, you can see the whole thing. So I decided instead of using this for a top, I'll use it as the braces. So again, all you're doing is, like, you see the number 8 there, and then on the bottom I'm going to have number 8 over here. So that gives me a 45. So that's the 45. I know I want it about 14 inches long, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're at 14 right there. So we can either flip this over or go, let's see, which way would I want to go? This way. So you can see how the angle is. So 8 and 8. I'm reading 8 here and 8 here. Now you want to be careful on the inside of the framing square. The inside of the square has a different measurement than what the outside would be. So make sure you're looking on the outside to find your measurement. So right there, we're good with that. And then we're going to do this again. We're going to put an 8 there and an 8 here. And it doesn't matter whether you use 8 or any number. Like I could use 5 and 5, or 4 and 4. There's no rule to this. This just gives you a 45. Okay? So you want to be a little bit away from that line for your saw curve. So I'm going to just move down a little bit there. That's a 45 there. Okay? I'm basically needing 14 inches. So that's right here. 14. So I'll give myself a mark there. And, you know, I'm number 10 there. Doesn't matter. I'm just looking to find a clear number that I can read on this old framing square. So then you just cut these then. You know, it's nice working when you have all kind of clamps and holders, or you have somebody that can help you hold stuff, but I don't have that, and never did working on the job site. You know, usually you're working with whatever you have. So there's our 2 braces. So I'm going to flip the horses upside down again. Flip the horse upside down. Let it lay on its top. I'm going to nail these braces in place. One there, and one here. That's all there is to it. So I hope that this helps somebody who's in a hurry to make horses. Have a good one, guys. Okay guys, so Ride 'em Cowboy. We got four horses, 2 sets of horses. That'll give me plenty of room to do all the staining that I need to do on the deck boards. And somebody had asked me, the name of the womanizing stuff I'm using is called Copper Coat, okay? And actually it's made by Rust-Oleum, even though it says, you know, woman on it. Just thought you'd like to know that. The other thing is, when I stain, or when I put that stuff on the deck, I only plan on putting it on the frame of the deck, and also on the bottom of the deck boards and sides. So I don't plan on putting it on the face of the board that's going to show up, because actually I'm thinking about using different types of wood just to show off the different types of wood. Not sure how that's going to look. I don't want it to look like a, you know, some kind of a pallet that somebody threw down to walk on. So I got to be careful what I do, but nonetheless it'll mainly be white pine. I'm not even sure if I'm going to use 1-inch boards yet. I'm thinking about it. But I have whatever I need, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see, what other, there was another question that somebody had asked me. Oh, about using the laser and stuff. Hey, if you guys are interested in that, I'd be more than happy to put up videos for that stuff. So what I'll do is I'm going to put my laser out there and actually show you how you use a rotating laser. They're very, very handy. And this way here you can use that, or know whether you want to buy one or not. The one I have is pretty expensive. I think it was approaching $2,000 when I first bought it, but now you can get them for a couple $100. So I'll show you how to use that, and a couple of the little things that I have. Thanks guys. Bye.